chromosomes. For humans, it's 2 sets of 23, 23 pair. Haploid means 1 set. So for humans, it's 23 chromosomes. All right, so you go from 23 pair of replicated chromosomes to 23 replicated chromosomes. Now, how is, somebody give me some information about meiosis 2. What's it just like? It's just like mitosis, except it's done with half as many chromosomes. All right, it's only done with 23 instead of 46 or 23 pairs. Guys, in mitosis, it doesn't matter if the homologous chromosomes partner up or not. It doesn't matter. You're still going to end up with genetically identical cells. Okay, so you get to the end of meiosis 2, you have 4 cells of 23 chromosomes. Because what happens, that replicated chromosome, those 2 chromatids break apart. And as soon as those chromatids break apart, each chromatid is now considered its own chromosome. Okay? And again, the way they break apart, it's going to be very random. So you're going to get all this genetic recombination. It's really cool, all that kind of stuff. Okay, so there you go. All right, so let's talk about spermatogenesis and oogenesis. Okay, spermatogenesis goes straight through meiosis, just like it typically. All right, you have it taking place in the seminiferous tubules of the testes. Okay, you have Sertoli cells, which are not reproductive cells; they're nerve cells. They help to nourish, provide support. Okay. All right, so the stem cells. Y'all know what I mean by stem cells? Somebody give me a layman's term for a stem cell.
It's like cell at the end. Split anything.
Yeah, I guess you could say it that way. I look at it as like the ancestor cell. So if you talk about the ultimate stem cell, that's a zygote. Because we all came from a zygote, right? Y'all know what other 2 structures come from a zygote? No, your whole body and 2 other things outside of your body. Your umbilical cord and your placenta. The placenta comes from the zygote. The placenta is not part of the mother. Sometimes there's confusion about that. Okay? All right. So you have Sertoli cells that support sperm cells. You have spermatogonia, which is the stem cell from which all sperm cells come from. It'll give rise to a primary spermatocyte. This is a diploid cell. This primary spermatocyte is going to have 23 pair of replicated chromosomes, enters meiosis 1, splits into 2 cells. All right, so primary spermatocyte goes into meiosis 1. At the end of meiosis 1, you have 2 secondary spermatocytes. Y'all see the consistency there? Primary into meiosis 1, end of it, you have 2 secondary spermatocytes. They're going to have 23 replicated chromosomes. That goes to meiosis 2, produces 4 spermatids. That undergoes changes to produce 4 sperm cells. Okay? And you have the different parts of the sperm cell. Which part has all the mitochondria? The mid-piece right here. Generates all the energy for here. Oogenesis. Process is exactly like spermatogenesis. What's different? What? You'll have polar bodies, but what'd you say about them? Okay. The timing is different. Okay? So what you're going to do is you're going to end up with, I've drawn up here. Yeah. So you have an oogonia, which is a stem cell. It gives rise to a primary oocyte, which gets stuck in meiosis 1. It's just animated, suspended in meiosis 1. If this thing is never going to be part of being fertilized, it'll stay there and disintegrate as that. It won't even go any further. What's the only way this thing's going to finish meiosis 1? What has to happen? No, not fertilization, not yet. It's still in the ovary. Ovulation. So for this primary oocyte to be unfrozen in meiosis 1, it has to be destined to be released during ovulation. Ovulation has to take place. So it takes place right before ovulation. Give you a little time scale here. It's right in the smack dab middle of your menstrual cycle. Day 14. Is it day 14 for every woman? No. Is it day 14 for a single woman every single month? No. It changes. All that kind of stuff. But roughly day 14. Finishes meiosis 1, secondary oocyte, polar body. Polar body might divide too. It doesn't matter. It's going to disintegrate. So you have a secondary oocyte that's released. Now you have ovulation. It's traveling down making its migration down the fallopian tubes, waiting for a little spermy cell to come fertilize it. And that's the only way it's going to finish meiosis 2, is if it's fertilized. Otherwise, when a woman begins her period 2 weeks later, if it's unfertilized, there's certain hormones that's not secreted, and it's telling your body, not pregnant. So now I got to get rid of it along with endometrial lining that you've been developing over that whole month. Does everybody know where the endometrium is? Endometrium is the inner lining of your uterus. That's what thickens over the month. It becomes more and more vascular, more blood vessels. Because blood has to carry nutrients and oxygen and everything good to the baby, right? That's why you have to do that. So if it gets an unfertilized egg, well, now your body's like, I got to get rid of this. And I got to get rid of the endometrial lining. So she starts her period. And then she starts all over again, right? All right, now, so it'll divide into a zygote. And that zygote will be implanted. It develops a placenta, which secretes some hormone, telling your body, oh, we got a live one, we're pregnant, we can't start our period now. So certain hormones stay elevated, and so your menstrual cycle is stopped until after the baby's born. Okay? And then it'll come back, I can't remember. I want to say maybe a month later, 28 days later after birth, I'm not sure, maybe 6 weeks, I'm not sure. But sometime after the baby's born, you'll start your menstrual cycle again. Okay? We good? Everybody understand that? Confident? All right, let's have a quiz. So talking about follicle. All right, so what's a follicle? I'm not talking about hair follicles. Guys, a follicle exists in the ovary. Okay? The follicle exists in the ovary. Okay? The follicle, the only way it's called a follicle is if there's an oocyte inside it. So if it's a primary oocyte, then it's called a primary follicle. If it's a secondary oocyte, it's called a secondary follicle. So it follows the pattern of the oocyte. Most follicles are just going to disintegrate. Okay, because most of your eggs that you're born with are going to disintegrate. You're not going to release 4 million eggs, all right? But if an oocyte, like up here, if it's destined to be ovulated, okay, then the follicle will progress with it. Now, when ovulation takes place, what happens is you're trying to like.
I'm trying to say warm. It's cold.
Oh. So when the ovulation takes place, the follicle ruptures. And when it ruptures, it releases the secondary oocyte, and it releases this layer of cells around the oocyte called the zona pellucida. Try this one more time. 3, 7. Zona pellucida. I'm gonna write it.
Can you say it a little louder? Jaden keeps interrupting. I didn't even see.
5-0. All right.
Oh, she's doing
Yeah.
Thank you.
Y'all be nice to
I love
Mrs. Coach Jenkins. She's like my fave.
Mrs.
All right. Okay. So look, guys, zona pellucida. Okay. So if you have the oocyte here, little nucleus, you have a layer of it right around like this. Now, the zona pellucida is what makes it really, really challenging for a sperm cell makes it very challenging for the sperm cell to fertilize the egg cell. And again, why does the egg cell want to make it challenging? It wants a healthy, fast, strong,
Survival of the
genetic survival of the fittest. It wants the Dr. Ben Wooster. Alright, so look. Shh. They wanted Ben Wooster.
We want deep.
Alright, so look. Shh. Alright, back up here. Okay. Now, guys, the follicle after ovulation. Okay? This is after ovulation. Say post ovulation. Alright? It becomes a structure known as the corpus luteum. Alright? Now, here's the thing. Here's the thing about the corpus luteum. The corpus luteum is going to last about 2 weeks. Alright, so this is happening day 14 of the cycle. Okay? Menses is this is a period, the period. If you say menses, everybody's going to look at it like you're like, what? Everybody knows what a period is. It's about day 1 to 5. And again, guys, these are approximate. This is like average. This is not like whatever, okay? So about day 14 is ovulation. All right, so day 28, you're getting at the very end. All right, and then it, of course, cycles back up here. So you have about 2 weeks that this corpus luteum stays functioning. Okay? Now, this corpus luteum, it's producing and secreting 2 hormones, estrogen and progesterone. All right, so what part do they play in this whole process? Okay, they have to do with the developing follicle, and they have to do with the development of the endometrial lining. Again, the endometrium is the inner lining of the uterus. Okay, and after a woman's period, what she does is begin thickening the endometrial lining again with more blood vessels. Why? Because blood is what carries the necessary nutrients and oxygen needed to the baby if she gets pregnant. Question?
This may be like a weird question, but if you start like thickening the lining after your period, why do you get
What do you what?
like bloated? You know what I mean?
That, I don't know. That has to do with like, I don't know. I think if you drink more water, it helps, I guess. I don't know.
Can you have twins?
Progesterone.
Can you have twins?
What's that again?
Yes.
You can.
Yes, because a woman typically only releases 1 egg a month, but she can release 2. That's how you get fraternal twins.
I'm saying like from 2 different bodies.
Yes.
So I'm saying like how would that work?
Well, that means that she had sex with 2 different men
Within
in
the
close
same-
proximity to one
close
another.
proximity.
One sperm cell fertilized 1 egg, 1 sperm cell fertilized another egg.
Gotcha.
Wait,
that can happen.
can you spell the endometrium?
Yes. All right. Okay, endometrium. Let's do this. Let me do a little chart up here since I can't get my computer to come up. All right. Okay. So, all right, day 1 to 5. Okay.
Oh, my bad, y'all.
Day 5 to 14. 14. Day 14 to 28. Okay. So let's talk a little bit about the different phases of the menstrual cycle. Okay. This is day 1 to 5 is menses or menstruation, whatever. All right. Day 5 to 14 is called the proliferative phase. Okay? In the proliferative phase, it's leading toward ovulation. Okay? Day 14, ovulation. This is when the follicle ruptures. We'll talk about what's leading to that in a minute. And then day 14 is called the secretory phase. And the secretory phase is when the endometrium reaches its full development. Okay? So, why does menses happen? Here's why it happens. Estrogen and progesterone, man, they plummet. They go way, way, way down. And that's what leads to this. Why do they go down? They go down because there's no fertilization, which means there's no placenta, which means there's no hormone called HCG. We'll talk about what HCG does in a moment, okay? But if there's no fertilization, there's nothing else. Progesterone, estrogen just fall off the table, okay? In the proliferative phase, estrogen and LH and FSH, you remember talking about that? Okay? That's targeting the ovaries in women. It's kind of having a positive feedback mechanism. All right, so LH and FSH goes up. What happens to estrogen? It goes up. What happens to LH and FSH? It goes up. So they keeps going up, keeps going up, keeps going up. And what is happening here, this rise in estrogen is beginning the endometrial development. So it kind of initiates the thickening of the endometrium. But what it's really doing is it's causing the follicle to mature, leading to ovulation. All right, the follicle's maturing, leading to ovulation. Okay? Once ovulation happens, estrogen starts to fall. Doesn't fall a ton, but starts to fall. And progesterone really goes up. Progesterone really goes up. And it goes up a pretty good amount. Actually, a lot more than estrogen falls. Progesterone causes the endometrial lining to really, really thicken. Okay? Causes it to reach full maturity. Now, again, 2 weeks between ovulation and the end of the secretory phase. Most of the time, what doesn't happen to the egg? Fertilization. Most of the time, no fertilization. Again, no fertilization. That secondary oocyte is migrated to the endometrium. It is implanted, and nothing's happening. Because nothing's happening, the corpus luteum degenerates. The corpus luteum is what's providing the estrogen and the progesterone. So if it degenerates, estrogen, progesterone falls, you start your period again. Now, in the unlikely events, because it's very rare, think about it. Even a woman who has 8 kids, we think, wow, that's a lot of kids, right? But that's 8 times she got pregnant out of how many months she has menstruated. Right? Hundreds, right? So it's still rare. So the rare time the egg is fertilized, what happens? Let's talk about fertilization real quick. So in fertilization, this is what happens. Okay? In this 2 weeks, because fertilization is going to happen around the time of ovulation, right? It actually can't happen before ovulation. It has to happen after, right? Because the egg's not going to be fertilized inside the ovary. So in that 2-week time period, after fertilization, there's going to be some sort of placenta that has grown, even if it's just a few cells. The placenta secretes HCG. HCG keeps the corpus luteum functioning. And since the corpus luteum is functioning, what are the hormone levels? They're steady. I mean, you could say they're high, but when you compare it to the rest of pregnancy, they're not really high at all. But they keep it steady. And since they are kept steady, what doesn't happen? Because this is up. This doesn't happen. Okay? So that's basically what's going on. All right? And so you don't want that to happen, because if that happens, what are you having? If you're pregnant and that happens, what are you having? You're having a miscarriage. Guys, in reality, why does a miscarriage take place, do you think? Most of the time. The baby's not developing. It's probably not going to survive anyway. I theorize that most women probably have a miscarriage and never knew it. They may be just starting their period like they think they are, and they're miscarrying because it's not going to develop anyway. It's very, very possible. There's no way to know. There's no way to even test that. Yes?
Can't you have opposing blood types with the baby?
Yes,
And
you
you have to
can. You
saw
can.
it.
It's perfectly fine. Now, we will talk a little bit about HDN and hemolytic disease in the newborn. Did we talk about that?
What?
HDN, hemolytic disease in
Gotta
newborn.
do something special.
In HDN, what happens is the mother is a negative.
That's
O
what my
negative,
mom
A
is.
negative, whatever. Okay? The baby is positive. Doesn't matter if it's A positive, O positive, doesn't matter. You know how antigens and antibodies don't like each other with blood types? A and B antibodies cannot cross the maternal fetal blood barrier. Can't happen. So if you're type B and the baby's type A, it's fine. Nothing's going to happen. Those antibodies can't cross. You're good. But RH is different. If the mother's negative and the baby's positive, the first time is fine, because there's typically no mixing of the maternal fetal blood barrier until the baby's born. When the baby's born, there's typically some mixing. Now the mother starts developing some antibodies because she's negative, right? She starts developing RH antibodies. The next time she gets pregnant with an RH positive child, her RH antibodies will attack the child and kill it. In today's technology, they can do the blood test beforehand, and then right when the baby's born, they can give her an injection that prevents her from producing antibodies, so everything's fine. That makes sense. But they have to know ahead of time.